2023 Ducati Panigale V2 Superbike that I basically daily ride every day is just about to hit 19,000 miles. We are right there, 18,999. So 1 year of ownership, 19,000 miles. And you know, how do I keep this bike this clean like this? I know like a lot of people ask me how, you know, this bike is as far as like the maintenance goes and the upkeep on it. It's expensive, like I'm not gonna lie. You know, if you don't ride the bike that much, it's obviously going to be much cheaper. But if you ride it as much as I do, then it's going to be really expensive. So I keep detailed notes. I just did a new one, but I usually keep detailed notes on all my maintenance. But I just did a full detail on the bike, and I went around and I went around and made a list of all the things that need to get done to the bike for the upcoming winter when we're going to have it down here. So I'm not going to include the valve adjustment because that's a Desmo. Was supposed to be done at 15,000 miles, but I have not gotten it done yet. I also don't really beat on the bike a ton. The list of things I want to get done that is with the Desmo. So it's kind of just like a full tune-up on the bike, pretty much is what's going to go on here. You know, everything but the internal engine components. You know, like I'm not getting into the actual cylinders and the pistons and all that stuff. So V2, it's a 955cc V-twin 2-cylinder Ducati. The V4's got a 4-cylinder, so that's the difference there. Two extra cylinders. And you know, a lot of people ask me, like, because at this point I don't even want to do the math on this thing, but you know, the bike's 22,000. You know, it's got a $6,000 exhaust on it. It's got $1,000 rear sets. You know, windscreens, seat cover, battery, tail tighty. I mean, mirrors, grips, suspension, the chain and sprocket kit. You know, which, you know, everything, front chain, front sprocket, chain, rear sprocket, all Ducabike, and special parts from Ducabike, wheel axle nuts. All that stuff gets pretty expensive. Not necessarily something that you have to do to it. And I would probably recommend not even doing chain and sprocket on a street bike. You know, these are all race components meant to be changed really quickly in racing applications, so you can quick change the sprocket without taking the whole wheel apart and everything. The whole hub assembly, you just kind of pop this the sprocket off. So that's what this quick change is, and it's pretty sick, but it does wear very fast. It's not really made to just like ride around the street all the time. Tons of carbon on the bike, all from Full 6. It's not fake carbon fiber. This is all the real deal. All right, so that's all real carbon. That stuff, all the carbon, I think I got about 1,000 in carbon. I think that thing's, I don't know, this thing was pretty expensive. That front piece, the radiator guards. So there's a lot of things that you could do to this bike to make it better and cooler, but you don't really need to do any of those things. But that's just to kind of show you the type of money that's invested into this bike. So a lot of people will be like, well, why don't you just get a V4? Because now at this point we're going on to this list, and I'm well up into the $30,000 range, you know, now already. You know, I'm probably at like somewhere around 32,000 invested in this motorcycle. So yeah, I don't want to get a V4. I mean, would I like to have a V4? But you know, when you put 32 grand into a motor, you know, into something, you're not just going to get rid of it, you know. So this is something I'd like to keep for a long time. The maintenance on it that I've done so far, I've already done 3 oil changes and 2 sets of tires. All right, and I'm about ready to do my 3rd set here. The Metzler is pretty good tire. I wouldn't recommend using it if you're going hard in the twisties. It's just a big beefy hard tire. It does get hot though, and it keeps its air pressure well. It's nice, it holds up nice. It's a good street tire. But if you go super hard in the twisties, you can see my chicken strips there, getting it on its edge. It does slide just a hair, and the front tire is starting to crown. So, you know, you can see how close I'm getting that front tire to the edge. But yeah, it needs new tires already. And so, you know, that's just the maintenance that I've done in the year without anything else. So those are things that you guys have to do to the bike to keep it running like good all the time. It doesn't have to be a Ducati. There's every week you should be cleaning your bike for sure, because when you clean it, you're going around and you're looking at bolts, you're checking, you're feeling things, you're making sure things are tight, you know, nothing's out of place. Like I was cleaning the bike about a week ago and I found the header bolt loose back there, so I had to tighten that, and then I got worried about the front one, so now I got to pull both front plastics off so I can check the header bolts in the front. And that's no easy task. The front header, you know, I got to take the whole front of the bike apart, the plastics, the oil cooler, fan, and all that right here, all has to come loose so I can get to the bolt. And so it's like probably a 3 or 4 hour job just to tighten one bolt, or maybe 2, or maybe I don't have to tighten them at all. But they definitely have to get checked. You could lose a lot of power out of it, and you can burn a piston too, because you can let too much air out or in, or I don't know, something like that. Somebody will snooty comment it in the comments, which is fine. I'm not answering commenters anymore unless you have a blue star next to your name, which means you are a member. So anyway, priority answer to comments the members get. But not saying I won't answer anyone, but it's tough now, man. People are rude. So we'll get into what I got to do to this thing, and I'll kind of explain. So that's why it's pretty important to keep your bike maintained, you know, because after a year, you know, this is what you end up with, you know. And I've seen guys bikes after a year and they're zip tied together, and maybe you dropped it or whatever, or maybe, you know, you missed the screw or something, your plastics fly off and now you have a missing plastic, or, you know, maybe you don't change the oil, or maybe you don't clean your chain. You know, a lot of guys, I see a lot of dirty chains. When I go to work, I always look at everybody's bike, and the first thing I look at to know if they take care of their bike or not is the chain. If you're not cleaning your chain, your bike is not going to run good. Your chain can snap. Your chain needs to be on point. It's the drive. It's literally the main drive of the bike. So if anything, like your chain, if you want the bike to actually move, the chain and sprocket and everything need to be on point. As far as safety goes, you need to be on point with your brakes. So brakes are something I check every day. Every time before I get on the bike, I check my brakes. And by check, all you do, I mean, it's not like super like, oh, how do I do that? You just squeeze your brakes, make sure there's no fluid coming out, check your brake fluid, check your rear brake fluid, and just make sure your brakes are tight and nothing's like falling out. Like, you would be surprised how much vibration takes these little bolts loose and whatnot, and that's how you end up with, like, you know, missing parts on your bike, because stuff vibrates out loose. Like, I lost this thing. Van Diemen sent one out and I lost it. This one I have safety wired so it don't fall, but you know, like, you just gotta maintenance your bike, and it should be something fun. It shouldn't be like, when you buy a motorcycle, it should be one of the things that you should be excited about is learning how to fix it, upgrade it, maintenance it, because that's just me personally. I know a lot of guys that get Ducatis that just, like, you know, let them sit in the garage and take it to the shop and let them do all the work. But that's kind of why I make my videos, just to show you guys this stuff isn't really that hard. You know, you're hanging out in the garage with the wife or their kids or whatever you're doing. Maybe you're single like I am, you just work on your bike. So it's just a little kind of a pastime hobby, and I don't know, I like working on bikes. But we got a lot of other cool stuff coming to the channel, especially when I get my house and we get out of this little tiny area, you know, start doing some water sport stuff and back to the other videos like the home upgrade videos and stuff like that we always like to do here. But anyways, so let's go over this list, because this is a hefty list. And like I said, people, oh, why don't you just go grab a V4 for that kind of money? Like I said, the V4 is really cool and it's a nice bike, but I don't really see a point in me getting a bigger bike. This bike does 185 miles an hour. I've had it at 180. I have it on camera doing 175 with plenty to go in the RPMs, and I just had to get off my exit. So, you know, it doesn't get up there as quick as a ZX10 or a V4 or an R1 or, you know, the Bmw S1000, but, you know, or the Hayabusa or any of those, you know, H2s. It's really, really, really fast. Those bikes are stupid fast. This thing's like fun fast, you know. It's faster than your R6s and R7s and 750s and you know, depending on, you know, what year R1s and Honda CBR 1000s and all that stuff, it'll dust all those kind of bikes, you know, depending on really who's riding. But as far as like this thing compared to a V4, it's its own animal, you know. The V4, it is, you know, oh, it's not a super bike. It is a super bike. Go on most websites and it's under super bike category. Go into Ducati's main website and it's also in super bike category. I don't know if people think this is a slow machine or if it's just because it's a V2 compared to the V4 that's like has a substantial amount of difference as far as speed, but it really doesn't. Like the V4 is super torquey, high end. It'll do 200 miles an hour. The bike is ridiculously fast, but this thing isn't that far behind, you know. And the other really cool thing about this bike is not a lot of people have them. Out here there's maybe one other white one, and I don't think it's that nice, because I think he has the same exhaust, but he has like a red windscreen. I'm not really into it, but we got some crazy changes coming to this bike, and I'm gonna tell you guys here that in the end of this, you know, towards the end of this video. So if you stick around, I'll let you know some of the changes that we got coming to the bike, that are, because this is going to be a bike I keep forever, is my plan, you know, because it's just so unique and beautiful. It has so much character, you know. The V4 has the winglets and everything, and it's super badass looking, and don't get me wrong, you know, if I have a chance to get a V4, I'm gonna get it, but I wouldn't trade this in for it, you know. And I think a lot about that all the time. But, you know, everybody, oh, you would trade it in if you had a chance to get like the Ducati electric bike, you would trade it in. And I had a conversation with a guy at work about this, and I don't think I would, because this bike is just so sick looking. It's a classic machine. This thing, it doesn't go out of style ever, you know. Like the style of this bike is cool forever, you know. It's never gonna get old or ugly. It's like, oh, this thing looks like it came out of the future, you know. And I love everything about it. It's a classic machine that is going to be worth a pretty penny as the years go on here. And, you know, it's a custom bike at this point. I've done everything to this bike all myself. It's all unique to me, to HARDCIty, and to the whole story here and the journey that you guys have been along with. So anyway, enough ranting about all that crap. We're gonna kind of just blow through this, but like I said, valve cover gasket needs to be replaced. The front radiator guard is broken. So as far as the Dicey 83 radiator guard for the Panigale, I don't know if a rock hit it, but it's split right there. See, so I need a new one of those. Oil change, TFT screen, that needs replaced. The TFT screen from, where did I get that from? I think Ducati Spacers. It seems to be like peeling or something, so got to get a new one of those. I don't want to take it off until I get the new one, and to put those on, you want to take the front glass off and the whole front, because it makes it way easier, come out way cleaner. So yeah, TFT screen. Now I'm gonna, because I don't think I did this, I'm not super happy with this, and I think I don't need it. I'm gonna talk to Ducati about this though and see what they say, like if what they recommend as far as going forward with this. This isn't going to be a street bike anymore. This is going to be a closed course bike going forward, especially once I get my new truck and, you know, some other things I've planned for the channel. But I don't know if I want to, because it's still going to ride on the street. You know, it's not like I'm going to get rid of the taillights. It's still going to be a street legal bike, but I don't know if this is the right configuration that I want for this bike. So we'll see what Ducati says. We're gonna leave that go for now. It's been just cleaned recently. I have it safety wired and pretty sick front sprocket, and this is a 15 in the front and 43 in the rear. Front brakes, pads, rotors, rear brake pads and rotors all need to be replaced. So you can see it's got these like heat, you can see, so that front rotor is toast. I don't even really use it when I don't have to. I've been stopping with my rear brake a lot, which in turn now means I need to replace the rear brake. It's not like the bike doesn't stop, but you get some brake fade when you're at slow speeds. So the bike will stop for sure. You know, you jam on the brakes on this thing, it's gonna stop and do its thing. But like I said, if you don't keep up with this stuff, this is something that can seriously kill you and, you know, hurt you real bad. So you want to make sure you're keeping on top of your brakes, your brake fluid, and all those kind of things like that. So that leads me to the next thing, which is a brake flush. So we're gonna flush the brakes, do a coolant flush, and I also was thinking about maybe getting a new oil cooler or some kind of new coolant system. I know they make a couple of different ones, but that's something I'm gonna invest in just to keep the bike run cooler, because this bike gets really hot, especially out here in Texas when it's like 105 degrees. This bike does not like the heat. It doesn't like to be hot. It likes to run at like 138, 140, 142 in that area. Once it starts getting higher than that, it doesn't like it. So you know, over high temps if you're sitting in traffic. Any bike will do that though, but yeah, this bike likes cooler weather. Like when I ride to work in the cool mornings, it's a nice cruise. I mean, this thing's humming along. It's so smooth and snappy, and it's got a little bit of zip to it and zing with the it's just such a fun machine to ride every day to you know, work. It's a 60-mile trip, so it's a fun ride, but it does beat the bike up. You got to constantly check and keep up with it. And now after a year, you got all this stuff you got to do, where, like, you know, your coolant flushes, you don't really need to do that at 20,000 miles. I'm gonna do it because I'm obsessed with making sure things are in the correct, proper working order. That just comes from my job. I've been a maintenance technician for many years, and, you know, doing preventative maintenance will save you from a lot of aggravation. So preventative maintenance is super important, not just with like heavy machinery and stuff. It's with motorcycles, especially these, because you're risking your life on this thing. So you need it to run at tip-top shape like all the time, and you can't really argue with that. I got new grips coming. I don't like the white ones. The blue ones were only for the MotoGP weekend, and I put these white ones on when they started getting torn up, and I hate them. They just look terrible. They make the bike look stupid, dirty. I don't like them at all. So I just got some black ones from motomillion on the way. They should be here tomorrow. So grips, the throttle housing. So this is something new that I found. I got it rigged up now. I already ordered it. It's on the way. It's in the right spot now, but if I noticed that the hole or the pin for the housing must have broke, because this is loose. I don't want to move it because I have a bunch of tape wrapped in there, and I tightened it, but that pin needs to go into your handlebar, right? And if that pin's broke, this will move. So essentially, if I slam back on the throttle, this whole thing will move. Like, look, you know, so that's not good. You got to be overly aware that that's happening. I've just noticed it now. So it hasn't moved or anything from the factory position, but when I was cleaning it, I noticed it, so I took it apart and I taped it and just kind of ghetto rigged it, because I couldn't really do anything. And so hopefully that comes in soon and I can replace the only other thing I really need and want to get for the bike is new tires. So once I'm done with, you know, riding all the time to work, kind of in that situation right now because I don't have a car or a truck, and kind of just going through the motions here with that. I don't know, I don't really need one, but I am getting to the point where I do really start need to get going on that. So when I get rid of when I get the new tires, they're going to be more of a racing tire. So I want to get the super courses, I forget what they're called, the SP2s maybe they are, but they're not tires you're going to want to have on the street because you'll melt them in 2,000 miles. These ones held up pretty well though. I've had these for a while. They got a hole in them, they patched and plugged, and these Nestlers are pretty good. But yeah, and I want to also get a new tail tidy, get rid of the NRC and get the Future Moto Ismo or something it's called. I forget. Future Ismo. Can't remember the name of the guy who makes these tail tidies, but he's got some more on the way, so I'll be able to get one of those, and it looks way cleaner under there, and it's also got better machinery. The NRC tail tidies are garbage, just saying. Sorry NRC. It's all good product. Oh, always forget about this thing. I do have the Ducati spacers spacer kit in the throttle, so it doesn't get that throttle rock. And I also have the Ducati spacers heat shield kit, which doesn't do much for you out here in Texas, but what does do a lot for you as far as the heat goes is the exhaust. When you get rid of that big header pipe under your seat and replace it for the titanium, which dissipates heat differently than stainless, stainless gets really hot, and it goes up, obviously heat rises, it gets hot. For me, what I have to deal with is hot air blowing off this motor. So I'm having a guy CNC a custom part with fins in it on here, so I can put the cover back on and it'll have vents in it, so to match this. So it's going to be pretty sick looking and let that hot air out, but not as much as this. It literally burns your leg. It'll burn your leg. It's hot. So that's always been an issue. But I didn't think the bike looked good with those covers on there, so I took them off. But like I said, when it gets real hot and you're riding along 100 miles an hour, that hot air is blowing onto the inside of your thigh and it burns. Kind of it. The battery that I bought for this thing, the super duper lightweight battery, is garbage. I'll do another video on that. I had to take it out, put the factory one back in. It died. It wouldn't start the bike. The little button wouldn't start it. It was brand new from Revzilla. I can't remember the company. It's supposed to be a good one. Everybody rants and raves about it, but mine sucked. So I got the factory one back in there, and yeah, so that's really it there. The upgrades for the future, the biggest thing, like I said, is probably going to be the brake upgrade. When we do that, brake upgrade is going to be a big deal. It's going to change the way the bike stops, and that's really important for me, especially on the track. You know, I want the bike to stop anyway, but I want to have brakes that I don't have to feel like I have to slam on for it to hit the corners. You know, when you get racing brakes, you just got to touch that thing. You know, it's just easier to control the bike when you have good brakes, really good brakes. So, but most people's skill level doesn't really match what those types of brakes do anyways, but I think I'm getting up there to where I can kind of I'll be able to feel and ride better with a nice set of brakes. But I don't know, the brakes are fine on this thing for street, but if I want to go onto the track, I personally want better brakes. Let's just say that. Wheels, these are going bye-byes. The paint's changing to flat black, and everything's going to be carbon fiber. If I can get all carbon fiber plastics for this and a tank, I'll do it. Like, but you're getting the tank, the carbon fiber tank for this is $4 grand. So that's like way in the future if I decide to do that. But I do want to get the carbon tail and the front and the sides. So once that's all finished, I'll have the tank wrapped black, and then I already have the carbon fender and rear hugger, although they're chipped up, so I may get them re-clear coated. But after that, then it's going the gold wheels and getting the Merchant Cine wheels. But I also was thinking about black. So the bike's essentially going to be from this white and red configuration to black and gold or black and all black. So I haven't really decided that yet, but I do want to make it all carbon, like kind of my idea of a Supperleggra V2. If Ducati made a Supperleggra V2, that's what it would be outside of like all titanium, you know, components in the engine. So we're just having fun with this thing. It's a really good bike, you know. I haven't had any major issues, like it's leaking oil out of the valve, it's here, but I think that's because it gets so hot here in Texas, and it's just, you know, it swells up. It's a common problem with these bikes and most sport bikes, and all of motorcycles are going to leak oil somewhere at some point, you know, just a matter of time. But you know, you just got to keep up with it. Like, it's not like I have dripping oil all over the place, it just sweats out of that. So it's just one of those things that you can't let go. You know, you have to get on these types of things. You have to get on, like when you're throttle. I know a lot of guys that would never fix that. You know, there's guys that just let their bikes go to shit. So keep up with the maintenance. It'll last you forever, you know, long time, if not forever. And that's the idea. So it's getting dark, I gotta eat and go to the gym still. I'll see you guys in the next one. Like, share, subscribe, use the links below. Shop at Raven Moto. If you want to be a member, just hit my name, my icon, homepage, go to join, and you can be a member of the channel, and that helps support all the future videos, future bikes, future builds, future anything, merchandise, whatever we're doing here. Your guys contribute, your contribution to the channel goes a really long way. So far we have 2 members, and shout out to you guys. And if I really should probably start writing your names. I promise in the next video I will. We're gonna start doing member only live streams too once we get 8 more. So like I said, at 10 we'll do members only lives. So if you guys want to get into the live streams and chat it up like we're gonna do a couple times a week, if not every day, you have to be a member. So other cool perks of becoming a member, giveaways, you know, especially as the channel gets bigger. So anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Oh, and one last thing, get yourself a high quality motorcycle stand. This is a Pitbull. It is the best, that one you can get pretty much, you know, so everyone uses the Pitbull stands. I don't have the front one yet. I've been meaning to get it, but that stand, I've yet to do a review on it. I'm going to. It is a really good stand. I don't think I know anybody who has a Ducati that doesn't have the Pitbull. But no matter what type of bike you have, you're going to need to get a bike stand unless you have a lift. If you don't have a lift, get yourself a bike stand and some WD-40.